Welcome to this lecture. So in the previous lecture we just tried to make this net discover. So basically what we just did was we just made use of this escapee module to do that. So in the escapee module we just made use of this simple method, which is rping method, which will just pretty much scan all of these clients and get the MAC addresses. But in this lecture we are going to do this manually. So first of all we have to just create the ARP request. We'll send it to the broadcast MAC addresses and we'll just combine those packets and see the responses of the packet. So one thing what I want you to see here is this message over here showing that it has received two packets and got 2 answers. So that means there will be the responses like answers and unanswered. That means we can make use of these responses to list out these MAC addresses. So in this lecture we are going to do pretty much that. So if you just see here in this figure, what we have is this client. So this is us basically. So what we are going to do in this lecture is we are going to make a ARP request saying that who has this bunch of IP address which is inside this subnet list, which is obviously you can see what we just have over here. So this will be the IP that will be sent as a ARP request by this client. After that we are going to give this to the broadcast MAC address. So instead of just giving this ARP request to clients directly, we are going to give this ARP request to MAC broadcast or a broadcast MAC address, because this is going to give this ARP request to everyone, and this ARP request will have the IP addresses of each of these clients, and that will just give us responses in the form of MAC address back to us. That means we'll just achieve IP addresses and MAC addresses of each of the client that is connected to this network. So let's do that. So first of all, as I've already said, so first task will be to create the ARP request. So you can see now we have to modify this code over here. So first of all, let's see how we can just modify it and we can just make use of this code. So first of all, we have to make use of the scanner class, or basically scanner function. So next is to create the request. So I'll say it is request. Obviously it is ARP request. So in order to create this ARP request, it is done by this ARP class. So let's make use of this ARP class, and now this is all to create the request in the Python. So it is very much easy. So you just make use of this ARP class to create the request. So next thing you can see is I'll just print the summary first. So let's see the summary. So summary will give the brief information about this request. So let's see, let's run this main module and let's see what this works. So let it give a time. It will take some time. So it has shown that ARP who has none says that this IP address. So if I just open the CMD, which is going to be my command prompt to see my gateway, so you can see here this is a wireless LAN adapter and this is my IP address. So that means this ARP request was done from this IP address. So we have successfully created the ARP request. Now next thing what you need to see here is the broadcast. So broadcast is to send to the broadcast MAC address. So I've already shown you before the steps. So first of all we'll just create the ARP request which we just created. So next is to send, or basically to get that broadcast MAC address, because that broadcast MAC address is going to send this ARP request to every client. So let's make that broadcast now. So first of all, let's go again to our editor, and here I'll just say broadcast. So in this broadcast you have to create the broadcast from escapee, and we have the Ether framework to do that. So this Ether framework will create the broadcast for us. So now next thing what you need to see here is to give the destination MAC address. So what we just learned from here in this figure is, first of all, as always, we'll create the ARP request and send that ARP request to broadcast MAC address. So here, in order to assign that broadcast MAC address, we have to learn about the arguments first. So let's see what are the arguments that is given by the escapee module. So in order to see those lists of argument, we have to make use of this ls function, and I'll just say escapee. We want the argument or the attribute of this ether module, so that should be ether. And now if I just run this, you'll see the list of attribute printed right over here. So let it give a time to run. So you can see we have here that is DST, SRC and a type argument. So you can see this DST is the destination MAC field, which is what we just need, because I've already said you that this ARP request which we just created over here should be sent to this destination MAC field, which is obviously the MAC address of the broadcast. So this is the MAC address of the broadcast. So first of all, we have to make use of this DST. So the way to do that is, first of all, you have to just use this broadcast and give that attribute that is DST, and in that DST you have to pass this MAC address, which is obviously your virtual MAC address. So it is given right here, that is the FF, that is 6 times. So let me just copy this and go back here and let me just paste it. So this is the way to just assign this broadcast MAC address. That means now we have created our request, which is the first part. So I'll just say here ARP request is created. So next one was broadcast MAC. So the next thing what you need to learn is to send this packet and this broadcast to the broadcast MAC address. So let's see how we can do that. So first of all, let me just remove this, because this is going to show us the sum of the attribute that we just need, and we only need this DST MAC address because this source is us. So this is MAC address of my PC. That means we don't need this, we just want this broadcast MAC. So let me just remove this line of code right from here, or you can also comment this out, and after that we'll just see some of the information that is given by the broadcast. So let's see first. So how we can do that is we can just print the summary first. So if I say broadcast dot summary, so let's see the summary of the broadcast first. If I just run this main, and let me just make here, and it has given the information saying that this is the source MAC address, that is our MAC address, which has this IP address, and it is just sending the packet to this MAC address, which is obviously the broadcast MAC address. This MAC address is going to send this ARP request to every client that is connected to this network. So this is the one step that we just did here. We just made use of this ARP request, ARP class to create the request, and we just now made the broadcast MAC address to be just working on this situation. That means we have to now combine this request with this broadcast, and we have to send this over the network, which will be done in the next lecture. So before that, I want to make you clear about the some of these requests. So first, let me show, instead of the summary, I'll just clear this out, and I want to just make use of this show method to show you these layers. So I'll just say broadcast dot show again, and I'll just remove this, and if I just run this main again, then you will see that it will just give us some information, and these are the some information that we have here. And this is the ARP layer, and we have here Ethernet layer, which was done by this escapee module. So this is the Ethernet layer. You can see the destination MAC address, which is the broadcast MAC address. This is source MAC address, and we have see this ARP packet over here. So you has seen here who has this, which is basically the way to show who has that IP addresses in the network. So next thing what you need to do is we have to combine this request and the broadcast, and we have to send this over the network. So to do that, we have to first combine these requests. So I'll just say request broadcast. I'll just give the name again, that is a combination of both this request and broadcast. So in order to just combine this, first of all we have to pass the broadcast, and we have the special this forward slash, which is basically to combine this request and the broadcast. So if you wonder what this is about, so if you see, this is not the division sign in the escapee, because we are using this escapee module, and in the escapee this is the way to just combine these two packets. So we have created now whole single packet over here. So this is the way. So next thing what you can do here is we'll just again show this layer. So I'll just say show method again. So let me just run this, and you'll see the 3 layer now. It will have our REST request first. So this is the ARP request that we saw in the previous lecture. This was the Ethernet that we just made for the broadcast MAC address, and the next one here is Ethernet ARP combined, which is for this request broadcast packet. So now we have to do something like we have to send this broadcast packet over the network. So that is the way to just send this packet over the network is by using the SRP method, which will be covered in the next lecture. We'll see how we can just get these MAC addresses to be printed and see the network that is connected to our internet or to the connection. So see you in the next one.